when Yosef reveals himself to the brothers. It says, Vayitin et Kollel b'bechi, so he raised his voice and cried. Vayomer Yosef el echav ani Yosef ha'od avichai. I am Yosef, is my father still alive? V'lo yochlu echav la'anot oso ki nivhalu mipanav. And his brothers could not answer because they were nivhal, they were embarrassed, or they were in shock. And then Vayomer Yosef el echav, and then Yosef says to them, Gshuna Elai, come near. And he says to them, Ani Yosef achichem asher machartem oti Mitzrayim. Many of us are familiar with the famous medrash that says, Abba Kohen Bardala used to say, Oy lanu miyom adin, oy lanu miyom hatochacha, woe to us on the day of din, woe to us on the day of rebuke. Yosef ketanan shel shvatim. Yosef was the youngest of the tribes, of the brothers. And they could not stand up to his rebuke. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the future is going to come and rebuke each one of us, lefi mashu, each according to what he is, all the more so we will be unable to stand up and give an answer, give a defense. I think a lot of us are familiar with the famous Beit HaLevi, the original Rav Soloveitchik. On this pasuk, he asked the question, where is the rebuke? Where's the din? All he said was, I'm Yosef, is my father still alive? So the Rav Soloveitchik, the Beit HaLevi, famously says that obviously Yosef knew that his father was alive. Just in the previous psukim, throughout the whole thing, Yosef would continually ask them, how's your father doing? And they'd say, he's fine. So what do you mean, is my father still alive? So he gives the answer as follows. He says that Yosef's word, Ani Yosef ha'od avichai, had tremendous rebuke. Because what happened? Vayigash Yehuda. Yehuda came forward and says to Yosef, he says to him that even if we deny it, but even if it's true that Binyamin stole the cup, like you're accusing him of, and as it seems, right, the cup was found in his sack, still have mercy, let him go, because our father will not survive his absence. So Yosef turns around to them and says to them, Ani Yosef, ha'od avichai, I'm Yosef. How come you didn't think of my father's life when you sold me, when you got rid of me? And just like you didn't care about our father when you sold me, you shouldn't care about him now when I'm trying to take Binyamin away. So he says the toichacha is, right? And this is, why were they dumbstruck? Because Yehuda and the brothers were 100% sure that they had the defense. They had like an irrefutable defense, right? That what? Have mercy, our father will not survive living without Binyamin. Coming from the least likely place, Yosef goes and turns their entire defense over onto its head, and he basically negates it, and he shows that by your own behavior, by your own past behavior, I'm showing you that your defense is just an excuse. It's not real, because you yourselves didn't live that way. And the idea is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the future is going to come to us as well, and he's going to say to us, how come you didn't learn Torah? How come you didn't give more tzedakah? And we'll say, well, we didn't have the money. We were working very hard for our money. If we could afford it, we would have given more tzedakah. If I had more time, I would have learned Torah. And Hashem will say, but wait a minute, but you wasted money on luxuries that were not necessary. And so if you're crying now all of a sudden, when you're looking for a defense, you're crying that you didn't have enough money to give tzedakah, you didn't have enough money to be able to stop working so you could learn Torah. I'll show you that when it came to the new television set, you had enough money. When it came to buying the new car, when your old car was perfectly fine, you had money, right? Over there, you were willing to spend your money. Over there, you had enough money. When it comes to Torah, you're coming along and saying you don't have enough money. So therefore, that's the toichach of the Beit HaLevi says, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to use our own behavior to pull our defense out from under us. It's a very scary idea. But Rav Galinsky, he mentions that, but he brings his own pshat as well. I think he doesn't mention it in the name of anyone. It might could be his own idea. He says perhaps the toichacha that the Medrash is referring to is actually in the next line, right? We understand the toichacha as being on the words, and that's certainly how the Beit HaLevi understood, Ani Yosef ha'od avichai. So my father's still alive. Why didn't you think about him when you were selling me up the river? But then look at the next line. Yosef says to them, Ani Yosef achichem asher machartem oti Mitzrayim. I'm Yosef, your brother that you sold to Egypt. So Galinsky wants to suggest that there's toichacha there as well. what's the rebuke over there? That Yosef is saying to them, okay, you sold me. I'm Yosef. Who sells their brother? But okay, you sold me. Maybe you needed money. So you sold me. But what did you do with that money? What did you actually sell me for? What did you get out of the sale? Shoes. The Pasuk in Amos says, Al michram ba'kesef tzadik ve'evyon bavur na'alai. So from here we learn that they sold Yosef for shoes, which is why when we read on Yom Kippur, Arze Halavana, or Eila Eskara, which one is on which, Menachem? Tisha B'Av is Arze Halvanan, and Yom Kippur is Eila Eskara. Which one is which? But again, they both talk about this Uri Gemalchus. So one of them says that Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuzaradan, whichever one, filled up the palace with shoes when he brought in the Chachamim to show that I'm killing you, the 10 of you, as an atonement for the brothers who sold Yosef for shoes. So where's the Toicha on that? So the idea is you could say like this, what was the Toicha? The Toicha was not just that you sold me, which is something that a brother's family don't sell their family, period. They don't sell them. But if you're going to sell me, at least sell me for something important. You sold me for shoes. And what's the Toicha? He says, La'atid lavo, right? In the future, Hashem's going to come. How's Hashem going to be mochiach? How's Hashem going to rebuke us? Take the same pasuk. Just instead of the word Yosef, put the name Hashem in there. Ani Hashem, Asher machartem oti. You sold me. What did you sell me for? Each person sells Hashem for his own narishkeit, for his own nonsense. Some people actually outright sell a Kadosh Baruch Hu for false gods, as the pasuk says. Hashem is the be'er ma'im chayim, and what's the pasuk? Be'erot chatzuvot, what? Broken wells. That we traded Hashem for broken wells, eitz ve'evan, statues. We sold Hashem for a block of wood, for a statue. But today, Baruch Hashem, nobody sells Hashem for a statue. We're not into Avodah Zarah. But again, the same idea over here, it's the same idea that what do? We sell a Kadosh Baruch Hu for gashmiut, for materialism. There's a story they said, the Chafetz Chaim, his son, the Chafetz Chaim we know had a broken down house. Anyone that went into Arndt Leib Steinmetz's house on Chazon Ish 5 knows what a simple broken down apartment looks like. He used to sit on a milk crate. That's hard for us to imagine, but he lived in our generation. Chafetz Chaim in Raanana had a little shack, a bikta. He had nothing. The famous story that a wealthy person once came into his house and said, "Where's all your furniture?" He says to him that, "Where's your furniture?" Chafetz Chaim, he says, "Well, my furniture. I'm a traveler. I'm passing through. I have a suitcase. I don't have furniture." He says, "This is my suitcase. I don't have furniture either. I'm just passing through." But the Chafetz Chaim had a bikta, a little shack. His son, I'm sure his son was great, but his son was obviously not on the level of a Chafetz Chaim. And the story is that his son bought a house next to his father's shack, and the house was, I guess back then, comparable, a somewhat nice house, wallpaper on the walls, etc. And he says that when the Chafetz Chaim came to see his house, like when you kiss the mezuzah, right? He put his hand on the walls, and he kissed it. And his son says, "Why are you kissing the walls?" He said, Bytes shel Torah. This is a Torah house. So the son says, "Well, thanks, Dad." He says, "No, that's not what I meant. I said I kissed the walls because your walls are wallpapered with Dape Gemara. Your walls are covered with Gemara pages." So what are you talking about, Gemara pages? He says, "Yeah." He said, "You put up fancy wallpaper on your walls, it's going to cost you money, right? You're going to have to make that money. To make that money, you're going to have to close the Gemara, and you're going to have to go to work for longer. So because you are investing in materialism, in a house, in nice furniture, etc., so you know how many pages of Gemara you're not going to be able to learn because your time is going to be taken up making money to pay for this house. Your walls are wallpaper with Gemara, so to speak, and therefore I'm kissing the walls." That was his message to show his son that the more you indulge, the more you invest in this world, that's all the more time that you take away from Kadosh Baruch Hu, from being able to learn his Torah, learn Gemara. The Panovich Rav once was visiting the Chafetz Chaim, and Chafetz Chaim had quoted a sefer in his Likutei Halachos, and the Panovich Rav asked if he could see it. It was a very rare sefer, a very rare book. But he figured if the Chafetz Chaim quoted it in his writings, he must have it in his library. So the Panovich Rabbi asked him, can I look at the book? He says, I don't have it. He says, I went and I borrowed it from someone. So the Panovich Rabbi asked him, he says, if you're using that book a lot, why didn't you buy it? Chavetz Chaim says, because it costs money. So the Panovich Rabbi said, money? Since when are you interested in money, right? So the Chavetz Chaim said, you don't understand. If I bought the book, so then I have to make money to buy the book. If I have to make money, then then it's going to come out from somewhere, right? So therefore, if I could borrow the book and not burden myself with involving myself in amassing of money, so then it's more Gemara, more Torah I could be involved in. And the Panovich Rav learned from here a lesson. He says that, in the world of business, they say time is money. Can't take vacation. I can't this, right? Why are so many businessmen workaholics? They work 16, 18-hour days. Time is money. Every hour I can make another $50,000. The Panovich Rav saw that by the Chavetz Chaim, he saw the opposite. Money is time. Which means if you want money, it's going to take time. That time is going to take you away from your avodas Hashem. Unless, of course, you're raising money, you're making money to become a big Baal Tzedakah, which is amazing. That's an amazing thing. But the Chavetz Chaim was, of course, we have all of the Chavetz Chaim's Torah today because he didn't engage in money at all. And the reason why he didn't engage in money whatsoever, he wouldn't even buy a sefer if it would take away. Because why? Because he said money is time. Every single coin I spend here that I need to extend here is more time I'm going to have to take away from learning Torah and, of course, teaching Torah. But that's the Chavetz Chaim. So that's the idea of the Torah. Rav Galinsky says that one day HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to come to us and say, you sold me for what? Halavai, we should be able to, after 120 years, go to Hashem and say, Hashem, we didn't sell you at all. Hashem, we clung to you from the beginning until the end of our days. But if a person doesn't cling to Hashem from the beginning of his days to the end of his days, so there's going to be a reckoning. Hashem's going to say that obviously there were times in your life that you engaged in something that you felt was more important than me. And so therefore it's like, just like Yosef was sold and he said, what did you sell me for shoes? We shouldn't be in a situation, in the embarrassing situation of a tochacha where we'd have to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu what we sold Hashem for. The Bez Hashem, we should take these messages to heart and engage as much as we can in Torah study and in mitzvahs and in spreading of chesed.